Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 2020 My Team Career Mode, episode number 45 today for the Bahrain Grand Prix in Season 3. If you guys did miss the opening round of this season uploaded yesterday, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. A really chaotic race that included a disqualification, going up against our obviously amazing new teammate, 100 rated Max Verstappen, and a whole lot of other stuff in there. Definitely check that one out. But this second race, equally so, I mean, all the races, the field is so close, looking forward to this one, but you know, coming into this, we've not got too much time till the next Grand Prix, only 2 days there, so did some teammate training with Verstappen in the activity timeline. We've still got pending the ultimate engine upgrade and the durability upgrade, because of course we tried to rush that upgrade at the start of the season. Unfortunately, it didn't come through, so we have to wait till after this race weekend. But just like it is in real life, I feel like in the game, that first race is always quite hectic, and you know, maybe people are still trying to find their feet, even the AI and the teams trying to find their feet. So we've got Mercedes who had a real shocker, so they need to turn up today. And then we saw glimpses of how good Leclerc still is in that race. He got up in third place, but he didn't really, he wasn't anywhere near myself or Verstappen. We had that covered off with a bit of clever teamwork there. So it's going to be intriguing to see how we go around here. Not my strongest circuit ever, but in recent races, we've been getting better and better at our race pace at least. And the strategy is always a decent one for us. A two-stop, you know, tire wear is quite high, so it plays into what I usually enjoy in a race here. But Mercedes do bring upgrades, so they are just ahead of us now on the R&D Performance Index. So we've lost that already, but of course we've got one massive ultimate upgrade coming for next episode. We're not going to spend too much. I didn't spend any points going into this episode because I want to see how that upgrade brings us to and see what we need, because that's a lot of engine power, so I need to suss out, you know, do we need more downforce, or can we go ahead with maybe reducing even more drag, because I don't want a situation where the car is basically too quick for its own good in the straight and we can't control it in the corners. So I'm going to wait for that engine upgrade to come through before I spend any more R&D points on air upgrades or chassis upgrades or whatever the case will be. But in Q1 then, setting our first lap in anger around this circuit, Verstappen goes top of all. I'm down in P9, so I was a bit worried we had to go again. So we go out again on that same set of tyres. So they're worn scrub sets, so they're not exactly going to be amazing, but hopefully enough to maybe get us through. But the first sector was okay. The last two horrendous, and so I abandoned the lap. But I do that because I see we're P15, and to my knowledge there wasn't anyone behind me on circuit, and there wasn't. No one improved their lap times, and so we do finish up in P15 and get through into that second part of qualifying. That's the only thing that really matters, although Verstappen topped the timesheets there, so putting me to shame a little bit. But I always start slow in Q1 anyway and speed up around Q2 and Q3, especially here at this circuit, Sakir. Very difficult, you know, that middle sector with that downhill left-hander is so tricky to try and navigate, and so I feel like I'm just trying to constantly build up that confidence of going deeper and deeper into that corner and trying to rotate the car through and get the rear end almost stepped out in a way to try and drift it through in a sense to make sure we don't lock up too much and lose too much momentum. That first run for us was okay, but I think we're going to have to go again, to be honest. P4, by the time we come through towards the end of the session, we're P5, which is okay, but you can see the time gaps. There's only about 2 to 3 tenths to where Verstappen is. He needs to go again. Verstappen's had a mare in that first one, so he topped Q1, but then has had a blunder in that first one, so he has to go again. But I go out as well, because Verstappen then does overtake me in the standings there, and we're down to P8, only a tenth or two ahead of the bubble, and so it's much better second lap time. We're up into P2, only beaten by Leclerc, so that second lap was needed. It was going to be very, very fine if I didn't go out again, and Verstappen makes it through into P7, so he's lost some pace going to the second part of qualifying, so that was a bit odd. Maybe he'll regain the confidence back in Q3 in that top 10 shootout, but two AlphaTauris make it through this time, and both McLarens, unlike in Australia, are knocked out. So I think AlphaTauri also brought upgrades for this race weekend. Them and Mercedes seem like the only two major players that we're kind of concerned about in the top 10 that brought upgrades this weekend. So AlphaTauri, clearly those upgrades are working for them as they pip out McLaren. And you might remember at times in Season 2, AlphaTauri looked very, very quick, and actually are quicker than Red Bull at the first half of the Season 2. I remember at Monaco they were doing amazing, so we'll see how they progress. But that first run then that you just saw was on a U set of soft tyres. It was actually the first set I used in Q2, because I only had one free set, of course, for this top 10 shootout, because I had to use two in Q2, so that's the only unfortunate thing. But it gave me a nice banker lap time, so we're down in P9, but it means now I can look at the top right and see how much time I'm gaining and kind of, you know, use that as motivation to push me harder. We need to find a decent amount of time here. We're talking at least half a second or more to really get towards the sharp end. We're only going to find about 4.5 tenths here, so this is not going to be astounding. Not going to be the second row, I don't think, like we had last time out, but could it be at least P5 or 6 potentially? No, it's P8. Verstappen gets on the second row, but that just wasn't good enough for us. Leclerc on pole position. Sainz only just second place, though. So again, it's mighty fine at the top there, but my former teammate and my former rival from last season share the front row. Ricciardo third place, much better showing for Red Bull, I must say. And from a 1-2 last time out to a 5-6 here today for the two Mercedes guys. So they've lost some pace. And AlphaTauri looked pretty quick because Gasly's out-qualified me. So I've got to be a little bit downbeat about my qualifying performance. We didn't really pull our socks up like we did in Q2. So we've got to leave it all to do on Sunday. But like I said, I actually quite enjoy the race strategy around here at Bahrain. The two stops quite aggressive for the top 10. You have to make your way through traffic, and that's perfect for me because obviously versus the AI sometimes can get stuck in that traffic. So it's perfect for the player. So let's go out there, make up for this quali, and try and bag another podium if we can.
We're here again then at a circuit famous for its stunning visuals and thrilling battles for glory. Who will take the spotlight in the Bahrain Grand Prix today? Formula One returns to the desert today on this exceptional 3.36 mile circuit. 15 corners provide plenty of overtaking opportunities. It could be a strategic race, this one, with Sakir notorious for eating up the rear tyres. Watch out for drivers managing their rubber at some point during the Grand Prix. And as always, a man with plenty of racing experience joins me in the commentary box. Today it's Anthony Davidson. Tell me, Ant, you're no stranger to surviving the melee of turn 1. So how do you keep out of trouble when there's so much going on around you?
Well, the throttle goes both ways, Crofty. You've got to have the discipline not to try and win the race on the first lap. So always be prepared to lift early and give those around you more space. Trying to be the last of the late breakers with half a dozen cars around you may pay off from time to time, but it's also a great way to lose your front wing.
Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, and talented Spaniard Carlos Sainz completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Ricciardo, Verstappen, Valtteri Bottas, and Hamilton, Gasly, the owner driver, De Vries, and Sergio Perez, Kvyat, Norris, Lance Stroll, and Ocon, Albon, Russell, Antonio Giovinazzi, and Kevin Magnussen, Matsushita, Latifi, Grosjean, and Jack Aitken. Now, it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
So as I said, race strategy-wise, will be a two-stop. Even with the tyre upgrades, most of our cars should have at this point by Season 3. We still have to do a two-stop around here. I don't know, maybe a one-stop could be possible, but I'm not going to risk it, especially from P8 in that traffic. Going to try and just break through in the first few laps and stick with the leaders, hopefully. But it'll be soft tyres to two sets of mediums. As of late, we've actually been preferring the harder compounds. You know, obviously I said I love the hard tyres last episode, and we actually loved them at Brazil, obviously, at the end of last season. But here, hoping the mediums are good race tyre. They have been for us in general most of the time, but especially at Bahrain. So hopefully they'll do us good. But here we go then. The second round of this season is underway. We had a 1-2 last time out at aarava Racing. I don't think we have the pace to manage that today, but let's try and at least bag a second podium to kick off the season strong as we go to 5 red lights here under the floodlights for the Bahrain Grand Prix. 5 red lights are out and we're underway. It's a very quick start for Pierre Gasly on the left-hand side. Slow one for Hamilton here. We're going to try and follow Gasly through a lot of space. A tunnel of space opens up on the left. We go around the outside of our teammate. We're up into P5 maybe as we enter the second corner, and we've got the job done. And Gasly is up into P4, so he's flown by everyone. Verstappen now down my inside. Sorry, Gasly's up into P3. Sorry, not even P4. As now we fight our teammate. He's sent us back through down the inside. So Max not too keen of us overtaking. We've had a mare on the exit, and we've actually lost another position to Valtteri Bottas. So it was a supreme start for us initially, but then got kind of carried away with it. Verstappen dive-bombed me and then just made a mistake there, and we're back down to P7 as it is. But what a start then for the Frenchman who just won the Italian Grand Prix in real life last weekend. Stonking start. He's up into P3 in an AlphaTauri sandwich between the two Red Bulls of Ricciardo and Sainz. But leading the way is Leclerc, I believe, still with a decent margin and the fastest lap as we move on to the second lap here, and we're looking at overtaking Bottas Bottas, who's a bit slow in a straight line here, so maybe Mercedes added some downforce with those upgrades of theirs into this race weekend. It's actually hindered their straight line speed, maybe, made them too draggy as we get him pretty damn easy into turn 1, and we're now into P6. But now, can we focus up ourselves and get back to where we want to be, where we were, ahead of our teammate Verstappen in the next few laps? Well, as it stands now, early doors in this Grand Prix, Leclerc with a decent lead already to second place, man. Carlos Sainz in the Red Bull. Gasly still in third, actually, ahead of Ricciardo, doing really bit. So AlphaTauri's upgrades must have been pretty damn decent there. Although, to saying that, Perez is down the order, so Gasly, just as an individual, has done really well at the race start. But we're already closing up to Verstappen, getting away from Bottas. And I must say, Hamilton and Bottas not looking too sharp. Hamilton especially there, as he goes up the hill, he actually makes a mistake. Look at that wobble. So Hamilton, I don't know what's gone on with him. Ever since it was like halfway through Season 2, he's just been atrocious. He's not been the Hamilton AI we kind of know from the F1 games and Hamilton in real life. Usually dominating, so performing to the highest level. He's just not been there, not himself. Very, very odd to see. But we move on to lap number 4, and we're going to look to catch Verstappen napping somewhat as he's behind Ricciardo there, and for some reason just doesn't take the corner as quickly as he should do. And now we're kind of jockeying for position, trying to play around with him left and right, trying to see where he's going to go. He goes to the inside, but we're going to go even further to the inside there to get the job done on the inside. Easy does it on the exit, wanting to give him the room, of course, because he is my teammate after all. And so far, so good in terms of giving each other respect. You know, we had a very good battle last race. We worked together as a team. So right now, no beef or anything like that with him, like we kind of had for a few races last season. And in a blink, then we're already on lap number 6. My pit window opens technically, but the tyres feel good, and I get this sense that everyone is going to go a little bit longer than maybe the strategy on the screen ahead of the race maybe predicted. So we're going to continue chasing after Ricciardo, and indeed this entire train of 3 Red Bull sponsored cars, as we've still got Sainz, Gasly, Ricciardo. But Ricciardo looks very slow into this apex there, and actually into the next corner he has a bit of a shake on the rear end, and we just go on the outside of him. Easy does it with ERS, and now we also get the added bonus of DRS on the next straight to make sure we finish off the overtake. I tried to go defensive and kind of force Ricciardo wide to maybe help Verstappen get an overtake done. Alas, doesn't work out. But lap number 7, Sainz and Gasly are in, and we've also got Verstappen in. I would have come in on that lap, but I knew Verstappen was going to come in on that lap, so I thought, let's not double stack him on purpose. Let's stay out for one more lap. I've got good pace. You saw there on the top right, I set a purple first sector, green second. These soft tires, I was loving them. I mean, it's just a shame we didn't have any more new soft compounds. Otherwise, I would have gone for a second set of soft compounds, because I believe that's what Sainz and Gasly have done. I think they've both gone on to another set of Red Wall soft tires, whereas we don't have any new ones left, so I have to go into a set of medium tires. The same as Leclerc, to be fair, the race leader, so it's not all too doom and gloom, but it would have been nice because those tires were actually really decent, I must say. But we're going to come out then just ahead of our teammate Verstappen, and behind, as you can clearly see with that camera shot, a lot of cars because we've got so much traffic. Classic Bahrain Grand Prix in the F1 game. Meanwhile, behind me, I think Verstappen just made a move, actually, on Daniel Ricciardo's Red Bull. Yes, he has. Top left there. He's behind me, so he's jumped the Red Bull. So that's really good. So both of us are slowly making our way up the grid, which is fantastic as a team to be getting closer and closer to that podium. Could we be aiming for a double podium, maybe? That would be great. But at the moment, having to make our way through a load of cars, much slower than us. We've got the Williams of Jack Aitken, one of our first teammates in Formula 1 in Season 1. This was down the inside. Easy does it there. Let the car roll through, then get the power down, deploy as much ERS as we can to the line. Rich mix going at this point, DRS open, but having to be careful in this kind of stage of the race not to overheat the engine. So you'll see me go down to standard mixture, try and cool down the engine, maybe even lean in some of these corners just to try and get the temps down. But Gasly being held up a lot there by Latifi. We go down the inside, try to make the move stick, but Gasly has a great exit in the AlphaTauri, and so we can't make the move quite yet. Can we do it into sector 2? As oh my God, Gasly, Jesus. We almost got completely brake checked by him. I don't know if that was a case of me being too audacious into that corner with the brake zone, or he just broke way earlier than I thought he would do. I think it was the second one, to be honest. But we lived to fight for another day. But my life flashed before my eyes there. That could have been pretty damn bad for us with the front wing off. But alas, we continue on. And we're going to get stuck here with Latifi, myself and Gasly, and even Verstappen and Ricciardo. So Ricciardo's re-overtaken Verstappen behind me on the top left. You can see on the ladder timing as we now try to make a move on the Frenchman on the outside. Can't quite make it again. He doesn't give me too much room, but we actually cut back, and he has the rear end squirming, and we go through the undercut line on the left-hand side, turns to the outside for the next right-hand up the hill, up into P13. Now get a massive mobile chicane of Latifi. Get out the way, man. We open up the ERS there on the bottom right, deploying a bit to get us past up into P12 this will be, but you can see how bad this traffic can be. You know, you're going to lose a good second or two if you don't get past them as soon as you catch up to them, which is exactly what Gasly did essentially on that previous lap. But we're now catching up to the next group of cars. Grosjean here ahead of him. You can see Sainz making his way through. Also Leclerc is having to make his way through this traffic as well, but of course he's been looking rapid and he's been dominating this entire Bahrain Grand Prix. So very much today's Leclerc is the Leclerc we saw at the end of season 2. You're the one that won like 8 races and 9 or whatever it was. I think it was 8 and 10 actually. You know, dominant display so far. Unless he has an issue, I can't see him not winning this Grand Prix, unfortunately. But I think second place is still up for grabs, because this man right ahead of us was in second, ahead of Gasly and Ricciardo, and well, we're ahead of both those guys here, so we should in theory filter out up into P2 and P3 once all these guys ahead of us pit. But speaking about all those guys, once more, Sainz making a move now on George Russell in the Alfa Romeo. He had a fantastic race here in season 2, Russell did. We're going to try and find some space. We go tight on the right, doesn't work. We go on the left, and we have to back out as we nearly hit the back of George Russell as he's caught unawares there, battling Sainz, and now has to battle me. But we go sailing round on the left-hand side. Easy does it, feather the throttle, slam it down now, and we're up into P10. So we're kind of almost waiting for Sainz to make the move, and then we're going to make it with him in a way. But one of these times I want to try and catch him out and get the move done on him at the same time. But for now, just the same kind of copycat kind of move here. On the right, then going to go try and cut in on the left and get Ocon, and literally it's deja vu there. This is literally the same move I made on Russell. It's actually quite funny and comical in a way as we squeeze our Ocon. This time we go a little bit too deep in that corner. Maybe it was a bit too aggressive, but nonetheless we make the move and we're up into P5, and we still are chasing after Sainz and trying to see if we can do anything to overtake him in this stint. Lap 15, everyone ahead of us has now pit, so we are indeed in P2, P3. Gasly 4th, Ricciardo 5th. I believe Verstappen is right behind Ricciardo, looking to overtake him hopefully, and maybe we can try and inspire each other by trying to overtake each respective Red Bull driver in front of them as we go chasing after our former teammate. We had some great battles for the race lead in the same piece of machinery, but now here we are, Bahrain Grand Prix, second round of a new season, battling each other in different cars, and we go through sailing on the right. It was a purple first sector, 2 greens, our personal best lap time of the entire race weekend, I think that was, and we're up into P2, but for how long can we keep that? Because we may be strong in sector 1, but this section right here, I am so slow compared to the AI. I can't hide away from it. Put my hands up, I lose about 2-3 tenths in that corner alone every single time, and Sainz is going to gain that time and use that to his advantage as he goes through. It's so close on the left-hand side there. We're moving our steering wheel about, trying to control the car, get the power down. It's so fine. Up the hill, we lift off to give him the room. We're still neck and neck. He's just there on the outside, so we have to give him the room as we go on towards the last corner. This is turned into a very tasty battle, and kind of one that harks back to those season 2 ones we had a few times over the course of last season. But we come out on top, and on this lap, Sainz actually pulls into the pits as he's on a set of softs, remember, as are the other Red Bull cars, Gasly and Ricciardo. So those guys going a little bit shorter on this stint. We continue on along with Leclerc, Verstappen, De Vries. We have all put on the medium tyre so we can go a little bit longer and hopefully have some fresher tyres at the end of this thing, because of course the Red Bull guys, I imagine they're going to put on a set of mediums, but they have to go a lot longer on those mediums than we will have to. So yeah, it's Leclerc, myself, Verstappen, De Vries ahead of Sergio Perez, who's also got a set of soft medium tyres on. Then a little bit down the road, you've got all these cars out of sync of us. They're all on hard tyres. There is Sainz then. So there are going to be about, 4 or 5 cars that all of us will have to overtake that are on hard tyres if we want to get back onto the podium steps from this 2-stop, as we now watch Ricciardo go round the outside. Doesn't make it work, but he's overtaking Gasly at least. So Gasly, unfortunately, he started off really strong in this Grand Prix, but slowly but surely he's been overtaken by the more senior Red Bull cars there. But back to us then, and this second stint on lap number 19. We're still going on for a further lap because the pit window opens now. Verstappen is in on this one, so my team wanted me to go a little bit longer. I think initially we wanted lap 17, but then mid-race they asked me to go to lap 19, which I did accept because I thought the tyres were pretty okay. Let's see where Verstappen ends up though, because the tyre wear was kicking in a little bit, so this may hinder me by the end of this thing. Verstappen gets ahead of that entire pack, which includes Ricciardo and Gasly. So Verstappen has jumped those two. He was behind both of them before the second pit stop. So going longer and going on the mediums has paid out for Verstappen, at least in that second stint. Will it pay out for us? Because as I said, the tyre wear was creeping in a bit. So although I was, accepting of the later pit stop, it may kind of not end up being the better kind of way to go. We should have maybe gone with the earlier stop on lap number 17. Let's find out as we're down this pit lane now. Leclerc is in ahead of us, but he's already now exiting the pit lane. He's got like a good, I think, 6-7 seconds on P2, so definitely going on to win this Grand Prix. Another slow stop for us, 3.1. We really need to speed those up. We were getting, almost, 1.9s at one point last season, so I don't know what that's about. But as we come out the pit lane, there goes Verstappen. Verstappen has jumped us with the undercut here, so my own engineers have made my life a little bit more difficult now as we're in P7, Verstappen P6, Sainz P5, and all three of us are trying to get through the cars ahead of us, which are all on hard tyres. Norris, I think there's a Racing Point car of Albon there, so we've all got to try and get through, but can we try and get past Verstappen whilst we do that and kind of use the cars ahead of us who are battling as Norris goes side by side with Albon? We go easy to turn one and just try and roll the car through. There we go. Easy does it right behind Norris. Yellow flags behind it for some reason, so someone's got an issue. Verstappen gets a mega exit though and somehow comes back and undercuts us on the right there to jockey for position. He nearly dive bombs Norris, doesn't quite, and so we both made things a little bit awkward for us, and we both kind of lose time to Norris in a sense. I feel like if Verstappen just let me ahead of him and let me just finish that overtake on the exit of turn 2, I may have had a good run on Norris, but oh well. We continue to fight on for the rest of this lap now, lap 22, so we've got 7 laps to go. Ahead of us, Sainz has already overtaken these two, and he's already chasing after Fiat, who's the Renault Works car in second place. I do think though, with the slightly fresher compact... I do think, though, with the laps left, the speed of this car and free air, and also the fact we're going to have fresher tyres than Sainz, we can go and chase after that P2. We just need to clear this traffic. And so, on cue, here we are then on the outside. It was so fine on the left of Norris, but we actually, in the end, just go around him like it's nothing, really, because those hard tyres are getting a little bit worn out, and obviously, they're just a slower compounded tyre, so you would expect us to make a move like that. Meanwhile, Leclerc's out there setting a purple lap time in free air, but honestly, I do think we have that pace at least right now at this stage of the Grand Prix. Obviously, Leclerc's been the fastest man overall, but as it stands right now, I'm feeling good about this. Open up DRS. Don't even use ERS on the exit to overtake him. We just need to make a pure DRS overtake, and we're already past. And lap 24, we're already on the back of Fiat as well, so only 2 laps later, and we're here looking to make the move and spoil the Renault Works team's day. Sorry, Renault, thanks for the engine, but we're going to get the podium slot here up into P3, and now we have a lot of free air, 2 seconds of it to chase after and get a P2 in this Grand Prix. Leclerc, you can see he's miles ahead of Sainz, so P1's out of the question, but we can get P2 if we dig deep and push hard. And meanwhile, behind me, Verstappen is also pushing hard. He's past Norris, past Albon, and he now goes and overtakes Danica Fiat. So Verstappen is also making his way through, as is the new man at Ferrari for this season, replaced Sebastian Vettel, retiring at the end of season 2. De Vries makes a move on Albon, and so I think he's in the top 6, so it's a much better performance for him compared to last race, so he was quite quiet. To be fair, remember, he just came into F1, so he's still got an F2 driver's rating of like 72 or 73, so it's given some time, really. Meanwhile, that is Hamilton, and he's outside the top 10. So Mercedes, they've had another shocker of a race. I don't know what's going on with them, but they don't look like where they are on the R&D chart. Very much the opposite of where Leclerc and Ferrari are, basically. So it's very, very odd, but I'm here for it, obviously. It changes things up, shakes things up here this season. We're not just battling Mercedes, we're battling Red Bulls now. We're battling still Leclerc, the man at the moment dominating this race. But as it stands, our fight is with Sainz and Red Bull as we move on to the last lap of the Grand Prix. Couldn't quite make the moves on the the previous 2 laps, but now we get a great run. We're going to fly past Sainz into turn 1. He actually outbrakes us, though, and goes around the outside. We jockey for position, and we just squeeze him out on the exit to maintain the P2, but we've got a whole lap left. And, of course, we already had one mega scrap with Sainz earlier on in the race at this very corner. As Sainz gets another great exit, we lose that time. We've been consistently losing to all the AI, really, and Sainz pulls out in the background. Verstappen's also caught up there in clean air. Verstappen has been rapid, and he's right there with us. Sainz gets us, though, into the last sector, back up into P2. We're using ERS up the hill, which is always quite dangerous there, because the rear end could snap out at any moment, but now we're going to use all the ERS we've got left to try and make a move into the last corner on the last lap of the Bahrain Grand Prix. Leclerc comes across the line to win for Scuderia Ferrari, but we're side by side with Sainz, and we do get the job done. Up into P2, run to the line. It's going to be P2 for us, and Verstappen just about misses out on the podium. He was right there. One more lap, and it could have been a double podium for our team. What a strong finish for the entire team there, but for us specifically, another podium to kick off the season nice and strong.
That's it for another spectacular Grand Prix here in Bahrain, and a real champion's drive to take the win. Anthony, tell me, what was it that helped them achieve this success?
I think that smart tyre management on track and very smooth driving definitely assisted in their victory today. That combination meant they got the absolute maximum out of their tyres at all times.
Ferrari are at it again, an excellent performance at today's Grand Prix, and they're certainly a team that know what they're doing out there.
So it's a familiar sight if you were watching the episodes from Season 2 at the end of the season. Leclerc on the top step, but we're second place, and Sainz in third. Very, very nice. Actually, you know, the only difference there is Sainz and different overalls. Otherwise, it's very similar to last season, I guess, of us being behind Leclerc. But obviously, it's early days in this season. Leclerc has shown his hand at this race, but we'll see now. Because when this happened in Season 2, he went on a run. So let's hope for our sake he doesn't go on a run of wins now. Next time out, Hanoi, it's going to be tricky. But it was a really good race for the team. Like I mentioned, Verstappen, he was actually very strong. I was very worried he was going to get stuck in that traffic, but he carved his way through. P4, and it could have been P3 very easy given one more lap. And as I said earlier, just before, Hamilton scored no points in that race. Again, he's on 0 points for this season. He's had an absolute shocking start. It's a man, I can't believe it. We lead the way still, ahead of Leclerc now in second, Verstappen in third, De Vries up into P4. I said, you know, it would give him some time, but already he's actually making waves there. He's ahead of both Red Bull drivers, so he's actually come out of nowhere to do that. Very, very decent for him, as Sainz and Ricciardo behind him after a bit of a iffy Grand Prix for them at Australia, of course. But constructors-wise, we obviously lead the way. Ferrari in second still, Red Bull up into third, McLaren down to P4, but Renault and AlphaTauri both overtake Mercedes. AlphaTauri didn't have the strongest race after a really great start from Gasly, but it's still something. Renault as well, Kvyat was up there. There's a bit of a mobile chicane, but he still brought it home for a decent finish, I guess. But for both of those guys to be ahead of Mercedes, Mercedes are in the bottom half of the table right now. If this actually is legit and that continues on, it's going to be a bit of a mazza, I think, this entire season, really. But if you guys enjoyed that race, really, really fun at the end there to just get Sainz at the line for P2, then be sure to smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you are new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content, guys. I've been aarava. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.